Hello, teachers, and welcome back to Teachers Help Teachers. I'm your host, Esther Yoon, and with me today are David Franke and Julia Marlin, who wrote, "You are not a robot, building human connection in a virtual classroom." It is an article, an insightful one, about remote teaching during the pandemic. David and I have a mutual friend, Myra Oliva, who introduced me to David a few weeks ago. He then kindly shared their article with me. So, David and Julia are here with us today to talk about their work. Welcome to Teachers Help Teachers.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great to
Thank
be
you
here.
for being here. Um, and I invited you both here because educators should read your article. It will resonate with accomplished teachers. They'll find themselves swimming in validation throughout your article because they'll they will identify with you. And teachers who need more guidance and support will find your article inspirational and helpful. I love your can-do attitude that resonated throughout the piece. An important attitude to have during a chaotic time, right? I found your stability in that can do attitude. What motivated you to write this article?
Well, I think that there were a few things, and I should I really wanted to clarify that we started writing this article at the end of last semester, and it was
Last
initially
year, yeah.
the 2019-2020 school year,
Yeah, March, yeah.
and the with the idea that we had some measurable success, we thought, with this model and with transferring our classroom culture and community into the distance learning environment, and wanted to share the the successes we had and the process that we had gone through to do it, because we thought it was effective, and we'd been isolated from so many people, and many teachers out there were not teaching synchronously, or either a very little or not at all, and unsure of how to do it. And we had discovered some really clever tools and some good hacks, and figured out some ways to make it easy to be live. Things being what they were, we did not get that article published at the end of the summer, which had been our original intention. But and then Julia, in grad school, and me starting a new semester with new students, things got put off and put off, and then the relevance still we felt was there, but we sort of we updated it and modified it some with a lot of the things that we had learned in the most recent school year. So, still feeling that there was possibly a need, or at the very least a reason to look back at and reflect on the process.
Definitely.
That was our motivation for putting it out there. Julia, did you want to add anything to that?
No, you got it.
Yes, as I was reading that article, I I found I found myself in your article. It spoke to me, and like I said, it gave me the validation of, oh, okay, I'm on track. I'm doing what I'm doing, because if these two fabulous teachers are doing it, and I'm doing it, and we've never met, and it's working for them, and it surely is working for me. Okay, then I'm on the right track. It was nice see to see that in writing from two accomplished teachers like you, um, you know, then communicating me with me through your work, saying that no, you're on the right track, keep it up, and that's why I urge other educators to read it, to find themselves in your article and in what you do. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, your program has a built-in SEL component that engages all learners. That was so true in your work. Will you elaborate specifically on the social emotional aspects of your program and its effect on daily attendance and participation?
Yeah. Well, I think that the social emotional aspect is the most important in terms of community. And from the very beginning, like David said, being live and being synchronous was really important to us. And we recognized that as being really essential to maintaining the community that we had. Again, this was last year. So we'd already been in class with these students, we already had a community with them. And then suddenly this thing happens where that totally separated everyone into their own little room. And so finding ways to keep that community feeling connected and keep each student feeling that they are an essential part of that and they're not alone, even though they are alone in their room or in their house, was not something that we did, 30 minutes of SEL in the morning, but it's throughout the entire day. There are so many different strategies that everything really comes back to SEL and community building. And then the results that we see from that are just like better participation and better attendance, because kids feel valued and they feel like this is a part of a community that I am part of, that I have to show up for and I want to show up for.
Right, right. And David, I just audience, I just met Julia and David in person. We've been messaging each other through email and planning this episode together in that way. But as I was talking to David and Julia and preparing just the outline of the show for a few minutes with them, I could see that rapport, that strong rapport between these two teachers. And David invited Julia to his classroom as a volunteer, correct? Before pandemic and into pandemic. Is that correct?
Yeah, so I was David's student teacher a few years ago. And then the timing worked out really well that I had a free semester basically between my undergrad and graduate current studies. And yeah, I went back and I got to spend another semester in David's classroom up until March 13th or whatever.
Right. But what I also wanted to say was, David, what a resource unto you to have that extra qualified teacher to partner with you, so that you can have such a successful program. And I found myself really appreciative of my student teacher. I also had a student teacher when not when the pandemic hit, but I definitely wanted to partner with the student teacher in the new school year, this school year, because I knew that if I wanted the program that I wanted, I needed another qualified teacher. And even though a student teacher isn't yet qualified, well, he or she was pretty close to it. And I was willing to take on another person to help me with some training. And boy, did it pan out to be a good thing. And David, would you agree with that?
100%. I mean, that one of the things that made this transition and that semester so successful is the fact that we were both there, and that Julia, having spent, many years working in different capacities at different lengths, from a whole semester to, just doing read alouds in groups over Skype and FaceTime with the class from Boston, and then coming back to the class again. I mean, that was, we were in a groove, and you can't beat having two teachers that are on the same page in a classroom that especially in this kind of situation, and we were able to do a lot. And I I'd wager we planned a lot. I mean, we spent a lot of extra time outside planning and preparing as well. But and that
Yeah.
was, the time we'd spend discussing and preparing for class also gave us. I mean, it was a lot of people out there. Were alone. Most of the teachers were just sort of cast off and said, "Okay, do something. Hope it works." And having someone to work with was an extraordinary benefit. Yeah.
So this article, audience, I will post a link to their published article, um, and you'll find it in the description section of the video. And then if you're also if you follow us on Teachers Help Teachers and on Facebook, I will also post a link to the publication too. So please, I urge you to read it, educators. It's a wonderful, wonderful article. So this article serves as a how-to guide, along with being your personal account on remote learning. So with that in mind, will you share the top 5 tips from that article, please?
Absolutely.
Share your treasures, your gems, please.
Okay, so our first one is community building time, and I already touched on this a little bit with the SEL, but the idea that we're coming together on Zoom not only to learn, but also to spend time with each other and see each other and check in. And we would open and David, you still do this with your class, you open Zoom early before the school day, and lots of kids like to trickle in early just to, say hi and hang out. It's like the schoolyard in the morning before the bell rings. And we do this a lot. We compare, like we take what is the equivalent of the real school to Zoom school with a lot of these things. We think about how can we take a component that's really important to us in brick and mortar school to Zoom school. And that social time before the school day is one way to do it, or also having a little like recess time on Zoom, breakout rooms where you can hang out. Yeah, that's really important. David, did you want to add to that one?
No, I think and that was something that, I mean, maybe only to affirm that, and the yard thing. It's something all teachers know, that when you're late to school, you're flustered. If you just show up at the bell, you don't have time to decompress. You sit down, all the things that you want to talk about with your friends, or your high score in a game last night, whether or not your coach yelled at you. Who knows? I mean, those kinds of things, the things that I hear on the yard.
Yeah.
And that time is psychologically so important for adults as well as kids. I mean, that's I like to get to school too early, and if I don't, when I'm not, I'm flustered, I'm not ready. So that time we backed it up in the morning. At first, I started like 10 minutes early, and there were tons. The first time I logged in, there were just tons of kids waiting in the waiting room. And then, so I backed it up to 15 minutes. So by the time I got to about an hour, I was like, if I'm up, I'm there. And this is still something I do, which, as Julia said, I'm getting my coffee in the morning, getting things ready. I just turn on the Zoom, and sure enough, blink, blink, blink. And the kids are there. So then I create a couple big.
Do you find the kids talking to each other more, or are they talking to you?
No, and that's I'm walking around getting ready. I'm just listening.
That's great.
And they can usually hear me if I yell or something like that. But no, they're talking to each other and they're interacting, and it's very much the feel is the morning yard. That's
and I think that having students talking directly to each other is such an important point, Esther, because it's really hard to make that happen on Zoom.
And that's, again, where breakout rooms were very handy, but also the chat, and also, and coming early so that you're not in the 26 windows Zoom, you're just in with 5 or 6 people sometimes, and the people would change, but also leaving it open at recess, or at break times, instead of just shutting kids out or closing down your Zoom. Just you can turn off your video and listen. I mean, that's so you can still monitor but not be present, and it's amazing. It's like you're out of the room. Um, and that was always, in our lunches we'd keep on the Zoom on as well, and within the day, even like you said, give them time to just.
Okay, so that's number one.
Hmm. Number two, so giving students the buy-in. I think one of the other really powerful choices we made was to give students autonomy and control over the functionality of the Zoom environment, of the digital learning classroom. And because initially, especially, that we were all figuring it out together at the same time, and somebody would discover a trick and they'd want to share that. So allowing students to be able to share their screens and have other students walk them through it, giving them co-host power to be able to watch the door, know who's there, mute
Oh, I
mom.
don't know if I'm ready to give up that power.
That's, I will just say that David and I are both in upper elementary. We're in fourth and fifth. And so some of these things might not translate to the younger grades, but yeah.
No, good point. I mean, I would say I would wager that third grade and above can handle that responsibility. And just like in the classroom, your students are in the brick and mortar classroom. Your students are responsible for elements of the daily
Bring
operation.
the phone.
Right, answer the phone. Go. Run this to another teacher. Whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Those lifting the blinds up. Like
Turning off the lights. Yeah.
vacuum the floor. I mean, whatever it is, like maintenance of your environment and its operation. And we just sort of shifted that over into the digital tool realm of it. And so people would share, look for videos and bring them to share, and that really the payoff there, I think, in the buy-in, where everyone really felt part of a crew that which I call them my crew, and that they were a necessary cog in this machine.
Right.
And so, which goes back to building community as well. I mean, and it contributed to the sense of community that we had.
And I think that's just a really essential part of David's classroom philosophy that I've witnessed, is that in the real classroom, students really are part of operating the classroom. And it's just the coolest thing. Little party trick that David likes to do when like a guest comes into his class is he'll be like, get the blinds, and like clockwork, 4 students will be like pulling the blinds down so that it's dark for the projector, and he'll be like, put them at 45 degrees, and then they'll like turn it and they'll go like this.
He's like the captain of this classroom ship.
Yes. That's,
That's great. And I bet your students, and we find that as teachers too, that they love those responsibilities, and like you said, and having that role, and be contributors in that way. What were some other tips?
can I just elaborate one point from that, because
Yes, please.
you make me think of and that sense of the ship. Okay,
Uh-huh.
so I, based on what we observed and the success that had in building that community, when I started this school year, which I didn't have the benefit of Julia at my side there, we couldn't, I was on my own, and I had to I had to build this community from scratch with students I didn't know, but having seen how to operate it like that. So I went right with the idea when I contacted and sent that first Schoology email out to each of the students. It was, welcome cadets, crew training begins tomorrow. Be prepared. And so this was our smart start, right? We were instructed with very little, to do a smart start, to teach them the things they need to know without really getting guidance as to what those things were. And the crew training was a daily component training. Like, this is how you share your screen. And we'd spend all day doing activities that involved sharing screens. So that by the end of those 2 weeks of cadet training, then the Starship was ready to fly, and we had a fully trained crew that knew the ins and outs, and that's all we focused on. So that experience there at the beginning of a digital school year allowed me to build that same feel of community and group participation and interdependence that we had in the classroom the year before.
That's fantastic that you took the time to lay out that foundation and expectations, and look, with even a new group of students, you're able to make this happen. Other tips?
All right, moving down the list, we have be open to new features and take risks, use the tools at your disposal, but keep a balance. So the idea with that is
that's a lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
Be open to new features is the heading. And at the beginning of the year, everything is a new feature because we've never done this before. So that's incredibly overwhelming. And then also throughout the year, features have been updated and things have been added. And then there's just all these external things outside of Zoom that you can use, like Padlet and ClassKick and Jamboard, and just all these things that can be great, but are also very overwhelming and like overlap. But then some of them have features that don't overlap, and it can be really hard to know what is the best for your class. And I can see teachers just being like, no, I figured out like one thing, this is what we're going to do, that's what we're going to do, which like makes complete sense. But I think that the more that teachers talk to each other and listen and are willing to try out enough new features that in a way where this is where the balance comes in, that you're not overwhelming yourself and your students too much, but you're also not keeping yourself so boxed in that you don't explore things that could actually really make your class so much smoother, so much better, like bring so many other things to it. So this is a year where teachers have to be super open-minded and open to these new things. And then I just think throughout the year, continue that mindset so that you don't say by October, okay, this is how we're going to do it for the rest of the year, because there are so many things that other teachers are learning and new things that are coming out. So just always be.
Julia, David and I are both veteran teachers, and hearing an up and coming teacher speak this way in her reflection of, okay, what works, what doesn't work. If it doesn't work, let me figure out what else is new out there so that I can incorporate that in my program. What technological tools are out there, what apps are out there to help me enhance this. Just hearing you speak on that I'm such a cheerleader for you. I just met you and I can't wait to hear of you and how you just thrive in this world and education, and just listening to you speak like a veteran teacher who is always reflecting and refining is really exciting. And
I've had some great mentors.
That's great. Great. I think that as I mentioned, in reflection, you can discern, is what I'm doing enough? Is another app something that I should bring in because what I'm already doing is lacking? So in that reflection, I think it will reveal itself whether or not to bring in something or not to, because there is a lot out there and it is overwhelming. But
what I've seen is that it's more overwhelming for the teacher, and the kids get on there and they're like, oh, cool, new buttons. I know how to like all these things. So yeah.
So reflection is vital to a decision like that. Don't you think, David?
Oh, absolutely. And that's, and being open, having the growth mindset of, I mean, let's give it a shot. What can we lose? And also establishing that with your students that, hey, not everything's going to work. We're going to try some things and they may be total fails, in which case we'll scrap it. But if this is really motivating and we're into it, let's keep it going and make it a group decision kind of thing. Right? And so, yeah, and students have brought Cahoots. And I think, I don't know if, was it a student? I think I may have learned about Cahoots from a student,
Thanks.
if not from you. But, and Julia and I pass back, different apps and ideas. And, again, we're fortunate now to be in a situation where we're both getting different kinds of input. So we can then, I get the benefit of all of what she's learning in grad school as well, and at the school where she's placed at. And, so there have been things that we've tried and then dropped, and kids have really gone, oh, this is so much better. I mean, it's just listening to them too, and you sort of know. But like Julia said, they want to push new buttons too. So, and if you think of attention span connected to screens and all of the decades of research that have gone into that, you need to shorten the attention span a lot,
Mhm.
to make that happen.
Did we cover the tips, or do you have
I
a
think there were
one?
two more that we wanted to get into, and that's the
Yeah.
segue to multiple access points and ways to get to sort of really maximize your student response and getting everybody involved in a sort of linear digital format like this is another major tip, where built into whatever platform you're on, if it's Zoom or Hangouts or anything, are some features that you can use to just within that, not using any apps or any, just some simple strategies that everybody can do, like using the chat, changing your name, simple things, a background picture, that are built into that. The chat has, I think waterfalling the chat is now a fairly well recognized concept. But those tricks are, they should be used often. And
They're, sorry,
no, go ahead.
I was going to say they're essential because they're culturally responsive, because not everyone can have their camera on because of their internet bandwidth, because they don't want to show their home
Mhm.
and things are going on over there.
Mhm.
And allowing students to use the chat or to use your little thumbs up button on Zoom, and just allowing multiple access points for participation, so that it's not, you're not only calling on the kids who have their cameras on.
Right.
It's like, no, you are here. I can see your name,
Yeah.
and you are here and you're participating. You're
Yeah.
part of this, and you're essential to our class and our group and our community and all that. I mean, it all goes back to community and SEL too.
Thank you.
That's a great point. And it really, that is, I think, the greatest challenge for students is feeling that they can be present in whatever mode they need to be. And then I think
Last tip.
last one, that's you.
Oh, it's me. Use breakout rooms. We already talked about breakout rooms a little bit, but we felt like they were so essential that they deserved their own bullet point. And there are just so many, yeah, there are so many ways you can use breakout rooms to do small independent work. Now Zoom has that feature where kids can choose their own breakout room. So you can like title the breakout rooms different things and be like, go to the one where you need to work on, and have hangout rooms, have rooms where you can be conferencing with a small group of students as a teacher. Use it for differentiation. In the classroom that I'm working in now, we use it to do turn-in talks with partners. So we send kids away really quick, the same way you would say, turn and talk to your partner in the classroom for 1 minute. We send them to a breakout room for 1 minute in partners and pull them back. And they know that routine. And once they all come back, we can say, okay, what did you share? What'd your partner say? What'd you hear? And it works the same way as a turn and talk in the classroom, which that was just a really great kind of epiphany, or when we figured that out, it was
When
I am so trying that next week.
you shorten that,
Yeah.
when you shorten that breakout room experience, they get very productive and to the point, and then come back and
exactly, yeah, high accountability, and they know the expectations.
nice.
Yeah. Other breakout room thing, there's endless ways that you can do breakout rooms, like endless applications.
Well, I don't know, maybe we need to come up with another show just for breakout.
Yeah, the breakout room show.
I like to have, when I also do tutoring in the morning, so if I open up my Zoom at 8, for example, and students come at about 8:30 to do small group instruction, for example, or intervention, and other kids are coming in, I open up 2 breakout rooms, call them hangout 1 and 2, well, maybe a third says do your homework, or whatever, and so kids will pop in, they'll see what's going on, and then they'll just jump over, like I see them, boom, and then they're gone.
Nice.
And they're gone, and then 9 o'clock rolls around, and I'm still with 4 kids, but all 26 are logged in, and they're just hanging out.
That's fantastic. So let's wrap this up with some final thoughts. Would any of you want to take the time to share out in this segment of the show?
I think one thing, I know we both have a couple things that we wanted to say. I want to just touch really quickly on the especially for those people out there that I hope will read the article and watch the video, and to know that we had some serious advantages working in our favor when we set in to do this. I mean, not just the fact that there were, so the fact that there were 2 of us, and that we knew the classroom culture well, and worked well together. The fact that because of the Green Ribbon Award that the school had been given, one of the things I had chosen to do that particular year, last school year, was to run a paperless classroom. So the students in the class were already fluent in docs and slides and Google features. They had been working with technology in a way that then allowed us to focus on the environment, and all of those other apps were already, they were pre-trained essentially. We were able to make sure that all of our students had hotspots and laptops that worked, and even down to we would deliver them. They being in the community, delivering things to people's houses was not impossible. So there were a lot of factors that really gave us some advantages that not everyone may have. Mm-hmm. I wanted to point that out.
And David, just listening to your elaboration of what you did, I mean, you definitely went above and beyond the call of duty, and how fortunate and blessed your students are to have you as their teacher. So thank you for that.
Well, thank you. That's it just felt like we were doing what needed to be done.
Julia, did you have a final thought or wrap up thought for this segment?
I think my final thought is that I've gotten the chance now to experience 3 different online classrooms this semester, last semester, and David's. And I've seen how teachers can run online school really successfully in ways that look really different from each other. And so our article is sharing the tips that work really well for us. And David's style and he turned his classroom into an online classroom, and every other teacher has turned their style into their online classroom. And so I think that the tips we have are great, and I also want to learn the tips that other teachers have come up with that work for them too.
Yeah, and that's why I created Teachers Help Teachers, so that we can share out and be of be of help and be a community of educators who can share their resource and just make it a little easier, right? When teaching is already hard, and then before you could even teach, to then be digitally fluent, to make sure that all this content that we are responsible for is attainable and easy to navigate on a digital platform. So it was definitely difficult and trying, but to hear from accomplished teachers like you who are so willing to share out their ideas is definitely a source of encouragement. So thank you both. Thank you, Juliet. Thank you, David, for being here on Teachers Help Teachers. And folks, please, I urge you to read their article. It will be linked to this episode and to our Facebook group, so look for it there. And I'll see you all again on the next episode. Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.